thank you very much for being here ahead of me. There I was dripping 40 minutes in the rain. I still
Where did you park?
I had to park about 4 blocks away in the pouring rain, and then the little thing wouldn't work, where you put your money in. So I was out for 20 minutes pouring coins in. Finally, someone behind me came up, and then the umbrella wouldn't work. I mean, this isn't life-threatening, but she said you could use your Visa, and it worked, so I won't get a fine or a ticket or whatever.
That's terrible that we were able to get in.
Well, it was pretty packed.
It was packed, but there was a spot.
Yes, that can happen at noon. Yes, and I haven't been given, I haven't seen either. I'll have some for you next time. So you've both been well?
Well, I got sick. I'm sick.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I don't like it. I got it from my sister, so I'm having a hard time not being mad at her.
No, it's normal. It's normal. And you've got a week off, or?
Yeah, I'm here for 8 more days. And then I'm gone for 2 days and I'll come back.
Oh, great. So I see you on Monday the 12th in the afternoon. Great.
Afternoon only. Remember I came in the morning once?
I'll be in Washington, D.C.
Oh, lovely.
And we're doing, and then later in the summer, we're doing West Side Story at the Colorado Springs, right near the Air Force Academy.
Very nice.
Pretty cool place.
In Colorado?
That you're doing Bernstein now.
Yeah, I do a lot of the Beauty and the Beast though.
Beauty and the Beast as well.
Yeah, and a lot of the Bernstein. And for every 10 or 11 shows I play those, I could maybe do one La Cage aux Folles.
Oh, that's right. I think you told me about that. No, you didn't. I don't know why I said that's right. We're going to have, the next thing, we're going to have flying Cirque du Soleil at the next one. I don't know if I we have to be bombarded. Anyhow, you sound nifty, suave,
Nifty. What should we play after if we have the chance? What should we do?
Oh yeah, we'll have time.
You want to just do March Right?
Yeah, I've got all golden oldies in there.
You know, this is your
They work.
this is your go-to list. We can also just keep this the same for the June.
You're absolutely
To
right.
save you the mailing, I'll just take this and tuck it away in my office.
Great. We've got 3 processionals in there. Well, what I mean is,
Well, that's sort of what it's all about. You know?
that's right. No, they're all very comfortable, aren't they?
Yeah. It's not the kind of thing we're going to play the post-ones over.
Pardon?
It's not the kind of venue we would play. This is the perfect stuff to play.
It's fine, and we deserve it after all these years. You know, and I'll go looking for music, but it never helps. I know. So I like this group that we have here.
Yeah, it is good.
Good.
So I think this couple, they're splitting up and she's not living in the house anymore. And he wanted to buy it from her. And they had an agreement that he'd buy it at a certain price, by a certain time, and his financing didn't come through in time. So now he's completely bitter because he wants to buy it at the price they agreed on, so it's lower than market value. was a year ago.
Oh,
They
yeah.
agreed to a price at $9.50.
Oh, yeah. You're around here?
Yes.
Go figure. It's going to be a ton of money less. I don't blame her. I don't
1.2.
blame her.
I don't blame her either.
No, it's her
But
entitlement.
he's the one living in the house, and he's dragging his feet.
Good
And
luck.
she's putting the pressure on me to get him moving along. There's nothing I can do.
But you could, a court can order the sale.
Well, I know, but she's kind of using me to
Nothing
push
you-
him along, and
nothing you
that's
can
not
do.
my job.
No, it's nothing to do with you. You're going to have to straighten her out on that one.
I think I will.
She's blowing up the wrong tree.
Yeah.
Blowing up the wrong stack.
I know it's unprofessional to talk like this, but it's very interesting when you've got a piano that won't speak. You mustn't try to overdo it. Yeah, the other one's broken apparently. I allow myself 3 maybe mistakes. I was gone in the first 3 pages. And I'm not used to doing obvious mistakes.
Yeah.
And they're obvious. So it's just but it's interesting. I can't. They can hear me outside. Anyhow, I'm having a good time. I was supposed to sit there with a sweet face. Now the whole world knows. go down row by row. Okay?
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the academic procession and the Chancellor.
I declare that the 566th Convocation of McMaster University for the conferring of degrees is now in session.
Please be seated. Good afternoon. I am Dr. David Wilkinson, Provost and Vice President Academic of the University. This afternoon, I have the great pleasure of acting as your Masters of Ceremony and welcoming you all, graduands and guests, to this convocation ceremony. I would like to start by recognizing and acknowledging that we meet today on the traditional territories of the Mississauga and Haudenosaunee Nations and within the lands protected by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement. I would like to take this opportunity to acknowledge some of the notable leaders joining me on the stage today. Dr. Suzanne Labarge, Chancellor, Dr. Patrick Dean, President and Vice Chancellor, Dr. Paula Byrne, Dean and Vice President, Health Sciences, Ms. Mary Williams, Vice President, University Advancement, Associate and Assistant Vice Presidents, Associate and Assistant Deans, Chairs, Directors, faculty members, and honored guests. Before we start our formal program, may I first ask everyone in the hall to switch off any electronic device that may ring or beep during the ceremony. I would now like to call upon our Chancellor, Dr. Suzanne Labarge, to make her own welcoming remarks.
Welcome, honored guests, staff, faculty, families, friends, and most importantly, graduands. This is an exciting day for all of you who are graduating today, as well as for all those people who have supported you and stood behind you, and in many cases have had a key role in you being here today. You have achieved a great deal to get here, and you should all be very proud of your success and looking forward to what the future might bring. Convocation is, of course, a time of celebration, but today we must acknowledge that this particular ceremony is an unusual one. It is the first convocation in more than 50 years that the McMaster family celebrates without Dr. Peter George. Dr. George was a much-loved teacher, a respected researcher, and a talented administrator. He served 15 years as our president and vice chancellor, leading a period of, as he would say, transformational change. Following his retirement in 2010, he remained active in the McMaster community as a president emeritus. In March of this year, he received an honorary degree to acknowledge his many contributions and many years of service to the institution. As many of you know, Peter died last month. So as the McMaster family gathers for Convocation, we also remember the passing of a mentor, a leader, and a dear, dear friend. Peter would have been the first, however, to insist that we turn the Convocation spotlight quickly back to where it belongs, on our graduands and honorees. So let's do that now. Congratulations to you all, and enjoy the ceremony.
I would now like to introduce Dr. Patrick Dean, President and Vice Chancellor, who will be presenting our honorary degree recipient.
Madam Chancellor, by the authority of the Senate of McMaster University, I have the honor to present Abraham Verghese. Abraham Verghese is a physician, author, educator, and patient advocate. Born in Ethiopia, Dr. Verghese immigrated to the United States and worked as a medical orderly in a community hospital where he witnessed the beginning of the AIDS epidemic. He studied medicine in India, like his parents, and returned to the United States, taking a residency at East Tennessee State University, eventually becoming chief resident. He then completed a fellowship in infectious diseases at Boston University before returning to East Tennessee as an assistant professor. Dr. Verghese has also held senior medical postings with the VA Medical Center in Johnson City, Tennessee, the Division of Infectious Diseases at Texas Tech University, and the University of Texas Health Science Center, where he was the Marvin Fallen Distinguished Professor of Medical Ethics and the Director of the Center for Medical and Humanities Ethics. In the midst of that impressive career arc, Dr. Verghese took a break from medicine to earn a Master of Fine Arts degree in creative writing from the University of Iowa. Today, Dr. Verghese is the Linda R. Mayer and Joan F. Lane Provostial Professor and Vice Chair of the Theory and Practice of Medicine at Stanford University. He served as Director of the Residency Training Program in Internal Medicine and established the program for the promotion of bedside medicine. Dr. Verghese has been honored by medical organizations worldwide, including being elected as a Fellow of the Association of American Physicians, the Institute of Medicine of the National Academies, and the Royal College of Physicians of Canada. He has received the John P. McGovern Medal from the Osler Society, the Nicholas Davies Humanities Award from the American College of Physicians, the National Humanities Medal, as well as an impressive list of teaching awards. Dr. Verghese is also a prolific author. His first book, My Own Country, A Doctor's Story, was based on his time as an orderly. The book won the National Book Critics Circle Award for General Nonfiction. The Tennis Partner, another personal work of nonfiction, was a New York Times notable book. And his first novel, Cutting for Stone, was a New York Times bestseller and shortlisted for the Wellcome Trust Book Prize. That book, in which the protagonist is a surgeon, explored the author's belief in healthcare practice that comforts and reassures patients, as illustrated by the following exchange. What treatment in an emergency is administered by ear? The answer, of course, is words of comfort. He has published more than 6 articles in widely read and respected publications, including The Atlantic, the New York Times Magazine, the Wall Street Journal, the New Yorker, Life Magazine, Forbes, and even Sports Illustrated. In 2011, Dr. Verghese's roles as a physician, a storyteller, and a patient advocate united when he delivered the TED Talk, A Doctor's Touch. His compelling argument that modern medical technology is not a substitute for traditional physician-patient interaction has now been viewed more than 1.3 million times. Madam Chancellor, I present to you a physician, an advocate, and an author whose work at the bedside, at the podium, and at the keyboard has helped strengthen the culture of patient-centered care that is so much a part of the character of McMaster's Faculty of Health Sciences. I ask that you confer upon Abraham Verghese the degree Doctor of Science, honoris causa.
Abraham Verghese, by the authority of McMaster University Senate, I have the great pleasure to confer upon you the degree Doctor of Science, honoris causa in McMaster University with all the rights and privileges pertaining to that degree. Congratulations. Now we get to sign this. Yes. And I would now like to invite Dr. Verghese to deliver the convocation address.
Madam Chancellor, President Dean, Dean O'Byrne, honoured guests, family and friends, and most of all, graduates, it's a great honour to be asked to deliver this address and to receive a doctorate from McMaster. To the graduating students, thank you for allowing me to share this moment with you. Today is the culmination of a dream that began when you were very young, perhaps. You worked very hard, sacrificed much to get to this moment. Now here you are, capped and gowned at this once-in-a-lifetime ritual with all its pomp and ceremony, this wonderful rite of passage. Now you could get your degree without attending a convocation, but as I will say more about in just a minute, rituals matter. Rituals work at many levels. It says something wonderful about you, that you believe in this ritual, that you showed up, because showing up for rituals that matter is perhaps the best advice I can give you. But first, if this ritual is about anything, it's also about acknowledging the people who are here celebrating with you, the ones who made this possible for you. It's their ritual too. I'm talking about your partners, your spouses, your children, your family, your friends. We accomplish nothing alone, nothing. They too had to show up. It truly takes a village. So please join me in saluting and applauding those who stood with you on this journey. McMaster has a wonderful reputation for excellence in so many areas, but in medicine, as a clinician on the front line, I associate that name with pioneering work on evidence-based medicine. Still, the evidence base about convocation speeches, I'm afraid, is not very good. It turns out that your memories of this day that survive will be in inverse proportion to your celebrations, your libations tonight. In fact, without the evidence of the certificate that you placed on your wall, there will come a day when you might question whether you were actually here and whether I was here. The best I can hope for that you say about me is, at least he was brief. Given the state of affairs, I decided that I would be brief and talk about just one thing that I'm hoping you will remember, that I trust will be relevant to all of you, regardless of your discipline, even though I may be speaking from the vantage point of a window of practicing medicine. And that one thing, ladies and gentlemen, is ritual. such as this one that you're participating in right now. You're dressed in a way that you otherwise never dress like, and I'm dressed as I rarely dress, with distinguished faculty on the stage. You marched in, preceded by a beadle carrying the mace, an instrument of battle that's also a metaphor of power. Our anthropology colleagues teach us that rituals are all about crossing a threshold. They represent a transformation, whether it's a baptism or a bar mitzvah, an inauguration, a funeral, a graduation. Take marriage. We marry with great pomp and ceremony and huge expense to signal our departure from a life of loneliness, solitude, and misery to one of eternal bliss. I'm not sure why you're laughing, because that... Graduates, I have to ask you, what are the rituals of your life, of your work? As you apply for jobs in the next few years, what are the key rituals of your chosen field? Remember that question, because I'm going to come back to it. As a physician, I confess, it took me a while to see how critical ritual was in my work. And what do I mean by ritual in my work? Well, if you think about the usual clinic visit, two strangers are often coming together. One person in the room will be wearing this white shamanistic outfit with tools in their pocket, and the other individual will be wearing a paper gown that no one knows how to tie or untie. The furniture in the room looks nothing like the furniture in your house or mine. The individual in the paper gown will then begin to tell the other one things that they would never tell their rabbi or their preacher. In my specialty of infectious disease, they will tell me things they would never tell their spouse. And then, incredibly, they will disrobe and allow touch, which in any other context in society would be assault. But the physician gets the privilege in the setting of this ritual. And I care for people from all kinds of ethnic groups, and I'm struck by how many different beliefs they have about illness, about disease, about treatment. But they all know about ritual, and you put them in that room with all its setup, and they know they're about to embark on a ritual, and if you do it poorly, if you just do a prod of their belly and stick your stethoscope on the gown, they're onto you. They can tell when you're doing it well, just as you can tell when you're in the hands of a thoughtful barista, a good chef, a good hairdresser, a good mechanic. Rituals done well signify people who are doing their jobs well. The ritual of the exam allows many things. It allows us to find the clues to disease that are on the body that we can read. But rituals, as I said, are about transformation. In this ritual, the transformation is the sealing of the patient-physician relationship if you do it well. But my sense is that rituals, if we submit ourselves to them, they offer another level of meaning, something transformative, something transcendental. I learned this firsthand in the early years of the AIDS epidemic, before we had any treatment. And I recall a patient, a young man, and there were so many like him. He was my age at the time. And I'd followed him for months in the clinic, and he had to be hospitalized. He was just fading. And he was dying. And each day I would come to his bedside and I'd visit him and I'd talk to his mother, and not knowing what else to do in this sacred, hallowed space that surrounded him with his mother holding vigil, after a while I would begin to examine him, albeit briefly. I would listen to his heart, I would percuss his lungs, feel his abdomen, feel his spleen, even though it was very unlikely I would discover anything that would change what we did. I engaged in this ritual out of habit, relieved that it gave me something to do, some purpose at the bedside. One day when I came by, his mother, that eternal figure there, told me that he had not spoken or come to consciousness since the previous noon. It seemed certain that he was about to die, and in fact, he did pass away a few hours later. But strangely, at that moment, as he heard us talking, as he heard my voice, we saw his hands begin to move. She was astonished because she had not seen anything before. And I was astonished. And we were wondering, what is he going to do? And we saw his skeletal fingers flutter up and then move to this wicker basket of a chest of his. And it took us a while to understand that he was fumbling with his pajama buttons. He was trying to unbutton his shirt. He was reflexively allowing me the privilege of examining him, giving me permission. I tell you, I did not decline the gift. I percussed, I palpated, I listened to his heart, his lungs. I felt connected to the timeless message the physician conveys, the same message the horse and buggy doctor riding out to towns on the western edge of Lake Ontario 150, 200 years ago conveyed to his or her patients in that era when there was so little to offer. The message is that beyond the data, beyond the evidence or lack of evidence, beyond the medicines that stop working, here I am, and no matter what, I care. I will be there with you through thick and thin. I will not stop coming. I will show up. Graduates, we live in a world that's rapidly changing. If you trace your family roots to Native Americans of this region, or perhaps to settlers from England or Scotland from 3 or 4 or 5 generations ago, imagine the changes that your family has witnessed. The development of Upper Canada, the founding of this great city of Hamilton, the Great Western Railway and the Niagara Bridge that transformed this town, the founding of this university in 1887, the booming years of steel and commerce. Ladies and gentlemen, in the grand sweep of time, that history is almost a flat line compared to the vertical, exponential, logarithmic growth that we've seen in the last 20 years in the digital age. It's staggering. Artificial intelligence, AI, will transform our lives. It will take away or change many of our old occupations, as it's already doing in your shopping experience, in policing communities, in facial recognition, in public health and population science. If you're an alarmist, you're going to worry about this. Stephen Hawking said in an interview that artificial intelligence could end the human race. I live in Silicon Valley. I'm very close to groups like DeepMind, and let me tell you, what they're up to has the potential for great, great disruption. We'll be forced to reconsider everything we do and what it is we offer to the world. But here's the good news. AI, or artificial intelligence, will still very much need you. I find it reassuring that although IBM's Deep Blue computer beat Garry Kasparov, the fact is that any grandmaster with an ordinary laptop chess program, such as you have on your computer, can beat Deep Blue or Watson paired up like that. The combination of human beings with creative, original ideas combined with artificial intelligence is going to lead to the most exciting things, more things than we can ever imagine. And here's what's not going to change, is the need for human beings to care for each other. We could, if you think about it, we could care for a little infant using robots, and we actually have diapers in Silicon Valley that'll signal your iPhone when they're wet. You know, we don't really need parents. We could mechanically do all these things, but we would never dream of that because we know children, babies need our nurturing. We need the joy of holding them and the feedback that that gives us. We need that as much as they need it. Such love and such nurturing is not confined to babies. We all need it in every walk of life, but especially in the care of the sick. I'm hoping that in my field, artificial intelligence will free us from some of the drudgery of medical record keeping and allow us to fulfill the Samaritan function of being a physician, to minister to those who suffer. So graduates, here's my advice today. Embrace the rituals of your life. Be conscious of them. Even as you, more than me, go out and create and empower the new artificial intelligence revolution that's coming, be in charge and be cognizant of those human values and rituals that you want to preserve. Remember that fluttering hand of the dying patient. I remember it every single day. What you can do that no one else can, no machine on earth can, is you can care, you can love, you can preserve the rituals that showcase these things, and you can show up. Always show up. Godspeed on your journey.
Dr. Verghese, thank you very much for those comments. We're just so delighted to have you now as part of the McMaster family. Dr. Verghese represents the best of what the medical profession has to offer, but it's more than that. It's his thoughtfulness. It's the breadth of knowledge. It's the breadth of understanding that just leaves me in awe, and I know many of my colleagues. And I think he represents what all of us would like to be. And he's right, you probably won't remember his speech. But I hope that when you hear the word ritual, somewhere in the back of your mind it'll trigger, I know something about that. I remember this message. And that's probably the most we can expect out of a convocation, and I thank Dr. Verghese enormously for providing that. Thank you.
Dr. Patrick Dean will now come forward to present the graduands to our Chancellor for admission to their degrees.
Will the graduands please stand? Madam Chancellor, on behalf of McMaster University Senate, I present to you these candidates in order that you may confer the appropriate degrees upon them, and I bear witness that they are worthy and suitable. May I also request that you confer the appropriate degrees in absentia upon all those candidates who have successfully completed the required course of study, but who are not present.
Graduands, by my authority and that of the McMaster University Senate, I have the great pleasure to admit those before me today and those in absentia to their individual degrees in McMaster University with all of the rights and privileges pertaining to those degrees. My sincere congratulations to you all. Please be seated.
Graduates, I now ask each of you to join me on stage so that the Chancellor and I may welcome you to the McMaster community of scholars.
Ladies and gentlemen, So that each graduate's name may be heard, it would be appreciated if during the presentation of the graduands, you would hold your collective applause to the end of each degree category. Thank you. Madam Chancellor, may I present to you the following graduates of the degree Doctor of Philosophy. Ryan Nicholas Buensuseco. Justin Kale. Josie Libertucci. Shodan Nee. Mark Gary Embrit. Dua Al-Sagi. Iqbal Haider Jaffer. Ran Nee. Colleen Margaret Ruth Short. George William James Wright. Neha Dewan. Madam Chancellor, may I present to you the following graduates of the degree Master of Science. Morad Al-Mashaleh. Maysoon Alam. Sarah Abdullah Arumain. Juan Arango Gill. Emmanuel Everett. Deepu Kakuril. Syed Ibrahim Khurshid. Mark Kina. Tina Voldrez. Sheena Guglani. Meha Bat. Carla Lancaster.
Brandy Lynn Meeks. Kelsey Erin Mills. Jill Christina Richmond. Michael Sang. Matthew Stefan Baden. Laura Sydney Elizabeth Calvert. Jagmanpreet Dang.
Jennifer Lee. Christine Sherhart. Dawn Elizabeth Turner. Caitlin Lois Turner. Madam Chancellor, may I present to you the following graduates of the degree Master of Public Health. David DeAndre Absalom. Safa Al-Khatib. Salmia Ali Muhammad. Zuhu Mubarak Al-Katani. Bria Barton. Timothy Harold Divestein. Jessica Furman. Kendra Habing. Miriam Solomon Assad Kamel. Danielle Kasparovicius. Comrade County. Adam Ladak. Jessica Natasha Langevin. Deepika Delilah Lobo. Sandhya Menon. Meloja Set Kunam. Ryan Van Meer. Lacey Jeanette Van Every.
Madam Chancellor, may I present to you the following graduates of the degree Doctor of Medicine. Neha Arora. Caitlin Elizabeth Baker. Heather May Spence Bannerman. Eli Xavier Bater. Emily Beatrice Baxter. Daniel Aaron Bayard. Suraya Khadija Baba. Jennifer Noel Pauline Beeson. Kristen Ann Bukestein. Aaron Taylor Budd. Carly Ann Campbell. Kalirohi Leah Karianopoulos. Louise Frances Cassidy. Allison Margaret Rebecca Castle. Ari Cello. Manraj Chahal. Amar Chakraborty. Rebecca Megan Chang. Jazreen Chima. Karen Chen. Pard Chivukula. Sam Chorlton. Laura Chu. Brianne Cloutier. Nora Rita Irene Coburn. Celeste Alicia Francis Collins. Ellery Tristan Cunan. Melissa Cunningham. Jessica Lynn Cuppage. Benedict Darren. Hannah Sarah Davis. Michael John Davison. Alexandra DeYoung. Emily Page Dewhurst. Georgia Georgievich. Dylan Alexander Eamon. Seper Ektiari. Heather Mary Kathleen Evans. Darren Kyle Evoy. Melanie Kathleen Fortune. Kaylee Foster. Grace Franchetto. Shane Reed Freeman. Sarah Ann Gage. Shreyas Harshad Gandhi. Kyle Goldberger. Enkor Gonswami. Marion Samuel Grace. Michael Jordan Grundland. Hussein Ghulam Hussein. Eric Michael Hamill. Shabnam Hamidi. Sarah Ann Elizabeth Hannock. Edwin Ho. Petra Hrock. Christopher James Humphreys. Nicole Jadreko. Gabriel Kiruban Jayasingham. Kate Elizabeth Jolly. Andrew Ashton Campus. Jeffrey Kay. Jennifer K. Summer. Yasmin Elizabeth Kazimi. Olga Kachuk. Joanne Esther Kieran. Joanne Kim. Marta Kieshel. Justin Jekon Ko. Pauline Kosalka. Michelle Kwan. Ryan Stephanie Kwan. Cameron Jonathan Lamb. Victor Christopher Lam Shin Chung. Michael Larocque. Kayla Marie Lassaline. Andy Liu. Sherry Liu. Stephen Long. Elizabeth Lavelle. Clara Liu. Sabrina Caitlin Amelu Tam. Christine Alana Macaulay. Abby Catherine Maybe. Jeffrey McCarthy. Andrew Patrick McGuire. Laura Elizabeth McInnes. Margaret Pearl McNee. Muzammil Memon. Antoinette Mihailova. Alison Keita van Geest Mikkelstens. Heather Irene Morris. Derek Matthew Moynes. Lean Naji. Sheena Nandalal. Leila Nasser. Tiffany Tin Wing Ing. Alex Ing. Colin Nang. Elizabeth Kathleen O'Reilly. Michaela Andrika. Hedel Patel. Laura Megan Pello. Alexandra Margaret O'Neill Pennell. Bethany Jane Philpott. Lucy Pivnik. Emma Elizabeth Pollard. Jenny Quinn. Andrew L. Ramadine. Chase Travis Rayom. Rebecca Ann Roden. Shakil Muhammad Salim. Carly Schenker. Shamini Selvakumar. Kristen Ann Marie Sestili. Sarah Vannon Sean. Jessica Shanahan. Falana Azizi Sharif. Daniel Edwin Sidilak. Brendan Lake Chandan Singh. Lee Gabrielle Skelly. Serena Steph. Gabriel Stephen. Tasha Stoltz. Nicholas Stone. Shira Strauss. Kristen Sullivan. Tyler Cameron Tababandung. Siavesh Tahiri Shalmani. Weishi Julia Tai. Andrea Nicole Tesselin. Jennifer Truong. Calvin Shui. Ryan Thomas Urban. Anthony Vu. Laura Emily Walmsley. William Jeffrey Warnica. Isuri Wikrakoti. Sandra Westcott. Benjamin David Braun Wyman. Meng Chen Shi. Vivian Georgie Shaw. Tim Zhu. David Youssef. Catherine Mian Zhou.
Okay. Yeah. Madam Chancellor, may I present to you the following graduates of the degree Bachelor of Health Sciences, Midwifery. Lee Catherine Rose Barrage. Corinne Ann Brandt. Samantha Johanna Carruthers. Caitlin Daniel. Sarah Jane Emma Fallis. Lorena Margaret Fitzsimmons. Chelsea Footers. Wrong again. Brittany Carol Gumbert. Ashley Yaga. Jessica Ann Cott. Kimberly Cock. Monica McPherson. Sarah Mirren. Amanda Brooke O'Gorman. Katrina Ann O'Neill. Juanita Peters. Andrea Ramirez Palma. Katrina Van Vliet. Daniela Vasconcelos Magdalens. Oops, she didn't tell me ahead of time. Sarah Margaret Wilson.
Madam Chancellor, may I present to you the following graduates of the degree Bachelor of Health Sciences Honors. Mohammed Adam. Aishan Aditya. Keon Arir. Shobit Aden. Sherry Ahmed. Sobia Ali. Syed Hussein Ali. Spandana Amartha Luru. Justina Assad. Jacob Bailey. Sahil Dylan Betty. Evangelos Benak. Harsuk Benapal. Chaitanya Bhatt. Michelle Kathleen Beal. Jessica Blackwood. Sama Bowles. Lindsay April Carfrey. Godwin Hock Sum Chan. Nicole Chow. Wei-Yin Ruth Chow. Allison Chen. Allison Jiawei Chen. Frank Chen. Anran Cheng. Albert Cho. David Chu Chong. Kaylee Kulig. Justin Paulo David. Andrew Christian DeYoung. Emily DeHaas. Arlinda Deng. Mimi Deng. Shirley Deng. Avrilyn Ding. Ewell Duan. Lisa Rebecca Lynn Divestein. Jason Fan. Cheng Wei Fan. Aaron Fu. Allison Gemmel. Sarah Jacobo. Taylor Gilmore. Caroline Nabil Onsi Gobran. Sally Halawa. Julia Ursula Haynes. Verena Hanna. Hannah Hapanenko. Sarah Hack. Rithwik Hari Das. Ellen Shuning He. Mark Heel. Joella Puyan Ho. Ekaterina Ignatova. Zafreen Islam. Mikhail Jagan. Vibhishan Jagatheswaran. Osman Jian. Tanya Kakar. Victor Kang. Sawyer Carabellis Pittman. Marta Karpinski. Savar Kaul. Mohammed Ali Khan. Zainab Kawaja. Christina Heewon Kim. Sugi Karala Lianaj. Daniela Kovesevic. Alex Koziars. Anna Kurdina. Celia Kwan. Carol Mijung Kwan. Michelle Wingse Kwang. Kimberly Lau. Sangjin Lee. Gavin Max Liffman. Ethan Lin. Xin Yan Liu. Johnson Sihan Liu. Sarah Luciu. Angela Ma. Saba Malik. Ramez Maximus. Justine Kate Main. Taylor Marie Mehta. Adam John Merlot. Janice Mock. Joyce Elizabeth Moore. Kokoro Mori. Jared William Morris. Kristen Nicole Monroe. Amber M. Murphy. Andrew Nashed. Corey Hayden Negan Friars. Alita Joji Eng. Carice Eng. Christine Lee Nguyen. Jenny Nguyen. Nini Nguyen. Salmi Tassin Noor. Emily Nowak. Evgeny Oparin. Erica Opengari. Kirill Pankov. Jiangwan Park. Rex Park. Anuj Bharat Kumar Patel. Payal Patel. Sarika Pavalegan Tharanja. Darian Lee Peruzza. Dylan Kamta Persod. Monisha Rita Persod. Jobanjit Fulka. Dilshan Ishara Piras. Nanad Pokrayats. Alyssa Posca. Madison Quirk. Kenneth Richwalski. Rahim Ramtullah. Diane Wren. Tristan Robert Kenneth Richardson. Aisha Rizwan. Hannah Park Roche. Paul Ruprai. Lisa Ross Choi. Megan Anna Rothenbroker. Ryan J.R. Runciman. Nancy Melissa Rosgar. Jaspreet Kaur Sangara. Jenna Marie Schlorf. Stephanie Marie Schwint. Yaren Sa. Nishwa Shah. Omar Mohammed Sheikh. Isabel Shamsuddin. Manraj Sharma. Molly Sivaram. Daniel Sun. Jacqueline Diane Spitzig. Archita Srivastava. Elaine Sterling. Crystal Jue Ki Su. Celeste Elizabeth Seward. Tina Yao Tian Tang. Maxwell Tran. Carmen Tu. Suman Kar Verdi. Andrew Wan. Dominic Wang. Joanne Zhofang Wang. Yi Wang. Nafis Wazed. Tom Wei. Brenton Matthew Wong. Ruilin Wu. Yifan Yang. Taylor Young. Lisa Youssef. Mark Zasowski. Leon Zhang. Yipeng Zhang. Yutong Zhang. Zhao Yun Zhang. Elia Ziying Zhao. Lexi Huize Zhang. Haley Zubik. Madam Chancellor, may I present to you the following graduates of the degree Bachelor of Health Sciences. Maylin Ding. Rhea Suleiman. Shayna Taylor.
Madam Chancellor, may I present to you the following graduates of the Graduate Diploma in Clinical Behavioral Sciences. Kimberly Ann Jones. Beata Sims. Madam Chancellor, may I present to you the following graduate of the Diploma in Clinical Behavioral Sciences. Lee Albert Little.
So please join me in one more round of applause to all of the newest graduates of the class of 2017. would now like to introduce Ms. Zainab Kawaja, a graduate of the Bachelor of Health Sciences program, who will be delivering the valedictory address.
Good afternoon, Madam Chancellor, distinguished guests, faculty, family, and of course, friends from the class of 2017. I am nervous and honored to be addressing you all today as valedictorian. In our last week of classes, I admit that I was so ready to be done with being a student. I felt tired and overwhelmed, and more than a little burnt out, which is a sentiment that I know is shared by many of my peers here today. But as I sat there in night class on that rainy Thursday evening, my last class here at McMaster, I was hit by a sudden wave of sadness and finality. I came to Mac fresh off a 13-hour flight from Kuwait, expecting to be challenged academically, and wow, I certainly was. We've all powered through group projects and lab assignments and late nights at the library, and hopefully we've ended up stronger for it. We've put in the effort and the hard work to get to this point and walk across this stage, and that hard work will continue to propel us forward in the future. But, of course, there's a lot more to life than just academic and career success. And our time at McMaster has not only satisfied our intellectual curiosity, but it's also given us some of those intangible life skills that make us the people we are today. Moving forward, we may never remember what we learned back in first-year chemistry, because I know that I don't, but the learning that took place beyond the classroom, the people who inspired and motivated us, and the conversations that expanded our understanding of the world, these will stay with us. Over the course of my undergrad, I've learned the importance of respecting different perspectives, and I've come to appreciate that everyone has something of value to contribute when it comes to collaboration. I have learned to be comfortable with uncertainty and knowing that I may never know exactly what life has in store for me. Some of you sitting here might know what you want to do with the next few years of your life. Some of you might think you know, and still others might be largely unsure, as I am. And I just want to say that all of this is okay. Ambitions and goals and career paths can change, and opportunities can arise almost as if out of nowhere, and seizing them when they do can lead to amazing things that you could never have planned for. And I hope that we will all be open to that when that happens, even if it seems like things are going well. And finally, I've learned that resiliency means knowing that it is okay to not be okay sometimes, and that reaching out for support is not a sign of weakness, as I once thought it was, but instead a sign of great internal strength and courage. The support systems that I've found here are what have made Mac a home for me, 10,000 kilometers away from the place where I grew up. I have seen students who are struggling silently, as I was, to just keep swimming through a seemingly endless ocean of stressors and fears. And more importantly, I've seen people come through all this, come together in touching shows of support and solidarity. I have slowly allowed myself to be vulnerable, to let people in, and I have felt firsthand the profound difference it can make to have someone simply listen and validate that what I am feeling is okay. Of course, the support systems at school aren't the only ones we all have, and so I'd like to take this moment to thank our loved ones who are here with us today, in person or online, as well as those who couldn't join us but are here in spirit. Whether it's a hug or a FaceTime call after a difficult week, or home-cooked meals and free laundry services when we visit. You've all helped us get through these last few years, and so thank you for your continued support and nurturing. Support is not a one-way street, however. It's more like an interconnected network that goes in all sorts of directions. And just as people have been there for us, it's equally important for us to give back and to be there for our communities. We are the future researchers, healthcare professionals, policymakers, entrepreneurs, advocates, and leaders. So it's up to us now to take what we've learned here and use it to push boundaries and affect change. The last 12 months, they've seen a lot of challenges in the world around us, as well as closer to home. And as Faculty of Health Science graduates, we have an obligation to be there for our communities. I'm truly excited to see what the future of health holds, knowing what we are all capable of contributing. My time at Mac has been challenging and transformative in ways that I could never have imagined when I first got off that 13-hour flight. We've all found our own way through this tumultuous journey, so now let's come together and enjoy this day and celebrate everything we have and are going to achieve. To the class of 2017, I wish you the very best of luck with wherever life takes you next. Be kind to yourself and make good choices. Thank you.
Thank you, Zainab. May I now call upon our President, Dr. Patrick Dean, who will present the Distinguished University Professor and the President's Awards.
From time to time, the Senate of McMaster University awards the title of Distinguished University Professor to exceptional members of faculty whose contributions in scholarship and education are truly outstanding. Madam Chancellor, today, on behalf of the Senate of McMaster University, I have the honor to present McMaster's newest Distinguished University Professor, Dr. John Kelton. Dr. Kelton is a professor in the departments of medicine and pathology and molecular medicine in the Michael G. DeGroote School of Medicine. He is also the executive director of the Michael G. DeGroote Initiative for Innovation in Healthcare. His groundbreaking research in hematology has changed clinical practice and helped millions of patients worldwide. His work on a common disorder in pregnancy led to a dramatic reduction in unnecessary cesarean section births, while his research output has also included breakthroughs in preventing and treating an allergic reaction to the blood thinner heparin. Dr. Kelton has authored 3 books, 90 book chapters, and nearly 300 peer-reviewed articles, including 16 in the New England Journal of Medicine. In medical education and research, Dr. Kelton is an administrative leader with few peers. He has, for example, chaired the Council of Ontario Faculties of Medicine, served on the Executive Committee of Hamilton Health Sciences, and been president of the Canadian Hematology Society. His signature contributions, however, were the result of his 3 terms as Dean and Vice President of McMaster's Faculty of Health Sciences. He oversaw the doubling of the faculty's enrollment, the creation of regional campuses in Waterloo and Niagara, the addition of clinical campuses in Brantford and Burlington, the development of the David Braley Health Sciences Center, the inception of a new selection process for medical students, a system now employed across Canada, and historic investments in research. These milestones elevated the Michael G. DeGroote School of Medicine to the top of Canadian medical school rankings and into the top 15 in the worldwide ranking of health programs. A member of the Order of Canada, Dr. Kelton is also a Fellow of the Royal Society of Canada, of the Canadian Academy of Health Sciences, and of the Royal College of Physicians. He has received the Prix Galien Research Award, the Queen Elizabeth II Diamond Jubilee Medal, the Gold Medal in Medicine from the Royal College of Physicians and Surgeons of Canada, and the Ronald Christie Award for Outstanding Contributions to Medical Education Leadership. He is one of the few Canadians to receive the American Association of Blood Banks Emily Cooley Award and the Karl Landsteiner Award from the German Society of Transfusion Medicine and Immunohematology. His many other honors include being named a Canada Research Chair in Transfusion Medicine and being selected by his peers as one of Canada's best doctors. Congratulations, Dr. Kelton. John. What a pleasure. Great to be able to do this. Let's see a photo over here. As the co-founder and current director of the first Children's University program in Canada, the McMaster Children and Youth University, or MCYU, in the city, Dr. Sandeep Raha has worked extensively with a dedicated team of volunteers to develop innovative educational platforms that use 2 delivery modules. Children and their parents from the Greater Hamilton area are invited to attend lectures presented by McMaster faculty on a topic related to their discipline. The community can also experience interactive workshops presented by MCYU-trained McMaster graduate and undergraduate students in their neighborhoods. The combination of these 2 formats has advanced the learning experience for the community and also for students at McMaster. Over the past 6 years, the MCYU in the City program has enhanced community partnerships and learning forums and is currently deployed in public libraries, community centers, and public schools throughout Hamilton. Dr. Raha's passion for multidisciplinary teaching is also reflected in the innovative training program he helped to design and implement, which provides McMaster students with opportunities to gain a working knowledge of curriculum design, community engagement, and project management while refining their skills through practical experience in the community. As one McMaster student who participated in the MCYU in the City program explains, this is a quote, Dr. Raha's innovative program bridges the gap between the university and the wider Hamilton community and demystifies class-based assumptions by empowering and academically preparing youth, especially those at a socioeconomic disadvantage, to pursue post-secondary education. His enthusiastic dedication and ability to motivate others makes Dr. Sandeep Raha an exemplary academic leader at McMaster University and a highly deserving recipient of a 2017 President's Award for outstanding contributions to teaching and learning. Congratulations, Dr. Raha. I'll turn now to the recipient of the President's Award of Excellence in Student Leadership, and I'd be grateful if Sally Halawa would come forward. Sally Halawa completed the Bachelor of Health Sciences program with a minor in French and has already earned a number of awards for her exceptional extracurricular leadership. The Alec John Royston Macmillan Memorial Contribution Award, the MSU Merit Scholarship, and the Albert Lager Prize for Student Initiative. Sally has served as a first responder with the Emergency First Response Team, has taught first aid, and was a wellness outreach volunteer with the Student Wellness Center. In her graduating year, she coordinated a national competition for emergency responders and was the outreach coordinator for the McMaster French Club. Sally helped first-year students adjust to university life through her service as a community advisor in McKay Hall and as a leadership developer for the Horizons Leadership Conference. In furtherance of her efforts to provide direct support to her fellow students, she mentored international students and worked as a listener with the peer support line. She was also the interfaith coordinator for the MSU's diversity services and conducted pedagogical research through McMaster's Paul R. McPherson Institute for Leadership, Innovation, and Excellence in Teaching. As the sponsorship coordinator for McMaster Relay for Life, she helped raise more than $74,000 for cancer research. Unbelievably, a busy off-campus volunteer as well, Sally has volunteered with organizations including Good Shepherd Center, Ronald McDonald House, Queen Victoria Elementary School, and Habitat for Humanity. Congratulations, Sally. It's a really well-deserved award. And turning to another recipient of the President's Award of Excellence in Student Leadership, would Elaine Sterling please come up? Elaine Sterling, who has just completed McMaster's renowned Bachelor of Health Sciences program, did outstanding work on behalf of her fellow students during her time at the university. A peer tutor for the Group Process and Communication Skills course, Elaine also helped create a safer, more inclusive campus through her work as coordinator of the McMaster Students' Union Women and Gender Equity Network. Elaine served as co-convener of the Violence Against Women and Gender-Based Violence Working Group of the President's Advisory Committee on Building an Inclusive Community, or PACBIC, and she played an important role in the process that led to the development and implementation of McMaster's Sexual Violence Response Protocol. She has even been a first responder to reports of sexual assault, providing personal support to survivors. Elaine worked with the McMaster Indigenous Students Community Alliance on an art installation that highlighted the stories of missing and murdered Indigenous women. She has also been a key bridge connecting McMaster to the broader Hamilton community on the issues that mean the most to her through her work with the Sexual Assault Center of Hamilton and Area, or SASHA, on projects such as the Take Back the Night March. Congratulations, Elaine. Really well done. Small reward. Fantastic.
May I offer my own congratulations to John, Sandeep, Sally, and Elaine. I would now like to introduce Dr. Paula Byrne, Dean and Vice President, Health Sciences, who will deliver the Health Sciences address.
Madam Chancellor, President Dean, Dr. Verghese, guests, family, but most importantly, graduates of McMaster Faculty of Health Sciences 2017, congratulations and thank you for allowing me the privilege of saying a few words this afternoon. In the early morning of February 28th, 1953, a young scientist working at Cambridge University, woke up with a possible solution to a problem he had been struggling with for many weeks. He rushed to his laboratory and began to build a model incorporating the solution that he had woken with. His name was James Watson, and he had solved the issue of how bases were arranged in pairs, the final piece of the puzzle that allowed Watson and his collaborator Francis Crick, working with research provided by Maurice Wilkins and Rosalind Franklin, to describe the double helix structure of DNA. At lunchtime on the same day, at the Eagle Pub, not far from Cambridge University, the two men went to celebrate, and as James Watson would later tell the story, just steps into the crowded pub, Francis Crick announced loudly, "We have discovered the secret of life." Now, it's impossible to imagine that any of the pint-drinking occupants of the Eagle Pub that day recognized that they were present for the birth of the age of genetics and genomics. 8 weeks later, however, when Watson and Crick published their insights in the journal Nature, scientists around the world knew immediately that biology and medicine had changed forever. Now, I know this will be hard for many of you to believe, but I was alive on February 28, 1953. And that means I have lived through the entire age of genetics. I have watched as we have used genetics to clone animals, engineer food, exonerate the innocent, and to convict the guilty. We live in a world where reanimating dinosaurs seems less and less like science fiction every day. In health sciences, genetics has allowed us to produce synthetic insulin, conduct prenatal screening, understand the foundations of diseases such as cystic fibrosis, and develop an array of treatments and therapies. Now, when I was a medical student, a trainee in Dublin, Ireland, I wanted to be a pediatrician. I worked on a pediatric cancer ward for 3 months, where acute childhood leukemia was almost universally fatal. If I were beginning my medical career today and experienced that same rotation, my career path could very well have kept me in pediatrics, with such an effect has science had on the mortality rates of that dreadful disease. As professionals working in health sciences, we have access to extraordinary tools. The pace of technological innovation has accelerated exponentially since 1953, and there's no sign that this is slowing down. We will always have new technologies, and for that we should be grateful. Advances in diagnostic imaging, in drug development, in medical devices, in transplantation, the list goes on. Technology is vitally important to so much of medical care in the 21st century. I would, however, ask you not to forget the two most brilliantly sophisticated and without doubt most useful pieces of technology that you will ever use in healthcare. These are your eyes and your ears. In the 19th century, Canada's greatest ever physician, Sir William Osler, grew up in Dundas, Ontario, within walking distance from the land that would later become McMaster's campus. He revolutionized medical education by taking students out of the lecture halls and placing them, in his words, on the wards. He was famous for wanting to teach at the bedside, and he most certainly would have felt at home in McMaster University's Faculty of Health Sciences. There is a famous series of 4 photographs of Osler taken at the patient's bedside. the images illustrate what he called the 4 points of a medical student's compass: inspection, palpation, percussion, and auscultation. And I want to focus just for a moment on that word, auscultation, which is derived from the Latin word auscultare, which means to hear with attention. This is the act of listening. Every great clinician, every wonderfully effective nurse that I have ever had the privilege of knowing has been superbly skilled at the act of listening. Despite our technological achievements and despite the innovations still to come, the greatest gift we can give to our patients as providers of healthcare is the gift of listening. No matter how powerful or sophisticated the tools of investigation, almost all diagnoses will be made by listening to patients' histories. We must listen to our patients in order to understand them, to be compassionate to them, and to involve them effectively in being stewards of their own health care. The announcement of the age of genetics began at the Eagle Pub, February 1953, and continues to astound and amaze with its innovations and understanding of the human condition. Genetics and other fields will revolutionize your chosen professions, as they have revolutionized mine. The art and the discipline of listening, however, is timeless and constant. And as graduates of McMaster University's Faculty of Health Sciences, you have developed the skills that will allow you to thrive in this timeless age. By arriving at Convocation today, you have made your families and your McMaster family deeply proud. We are proud that such talented and such gifted individuals are graduates of McMaster University's Faculty of Health Sciences, and we shall be proud of your many successes in the future. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Paul. May I now introduce Don Bridgman, President of the McMaster Alumni Association. Don will deliver the Alumni Association address.
Chancellor Labarge, President Dean, McMaster faculty, fellow alumni, honored guests, and especially members of the McMaster class of 2017. The first time we did this, it was 123 years ago, and there were only 16 of you. The events of commencement, as Convocation was called then, were a little different from today's ceremony. In 1894, McMaster's first Convocation included a sermon, the reading of the graduate theses. Yes, they read them aloud, word for word. That would have taken a little time today, I think. And wait for it, the conferring of 60 honorary degrees. The black graduation gowns back then were made of alpaca and lined with white satinette for the arts grads and lavender for the graduates from theology. One of the graduates wearing alpaca that day was a young woman named Elizabeth Wells. She later published a description of the ceremony in Canadian Magazine, and in that article she wrote of McMaster's first Convocation, the enthusiasm shown by the students who sat massed in the body of the large assembly showed plainly that they were filled with the spirit of loyalty to the university. I'm not sure if 16 people in alpaca gowns counts as a mass, but the feelings of enthusiasm and pride were likely valid observations. I hope that you have similar feelings today. I know I did when I graduated. Today, our university is very different from the McMaster Elizabeth Wells knew 123 years ago, and our institutional history and credentials are far more robust today. I hope that your McMaster has earned your enthusiasm and loyalty through its service, excellence, leadership, and accomplishment, just as we have worked hard to earn our pride in you, as you have worked hard to earn our pride in you and our loyalty to you as you become the newest members of the Mac alumni family. The McMaster Alumni Association's goal is to take your connection to McMaster beyond the feelings that are so strong today and help make it into a lifelong connection of substance. In your lives as alumni, the association will work to keep you connected. You will receive the McMaster Times Alumni Magazine, the e-newsletter Maroon Mail, and you can be part of the association's communities on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Instagram. As grads, you can sample activities and opportunities from our Mac 10 program, a series of events and services, including social activities, career assistance, and online and in-person networking. We've also added a mentoring program that gives you access to the wisdom of hundreds of fellow Mac grads, as well as the opportunity to share your wisdom with current students through a searchable database. Throughout your life, you can take advantage of value-added services like home, auto, life insurance, mortgages, credit cards, and travel services. You can also join your fellow alumni at one of the hundreds of events we organized annually here in Hamilton and also across Canada and actually also around the world. Take a few moments after the ceremony to complete our, quote, "How maroon are you?" quiz noted on the card you found on your seat today to have a little fun reflecting on your time at McMaster. It will lead you to alumni.mcmaster.ca, where you can learn more about being a member of the Alumni Association and what it can do for you. All you really need to know for now is that McMaster Alumni Association and the Mac alumni family can be part of your McMaster experience in a big way or in a small way, and anytime you'd like. When you're ready, the McMaster Alumni Association will be too. So to the class of 2017, I offer my most sincere congratulations on your academic accomplishments and on your graduation. You should be extremely proud of your accomplishments. I know I'm proud of what you've done. Congratulations and welcome.
Thank you, Don. I now invite Dr. Dean back to the podium to deliver the President's address.
Madam Chancellor, Dr. Verghese, distinguished guests and colleagues, and graduates. You've had quite a lot of me today, and I'm afraid there's a little bit more, and then you'll be free to go in an orderly fashion, I would stress. No stampeding to the door. This is a wonderful occasion at the end of what has been in many ways a very trying week. I think in many people's minds, thoughts about what happened in Britain, in Manchester, several days ago, linger. And they linger for me particularly when I think about the tragedy of wasted youth, that young people with great promise should have found their lives brought to an end in such an awful way, is an emblem of the great difficulty in our world in which young people confront a very uncongenial world and attempt to make something better out of it. I wanted to talk, as is my fortunate privilege at these events, to you a little bit before you go about that whole issue, about youth and the obligations and promise of it. Now, many of you will know that Canada's mandatory long-form census was restored approximately 18 months ago. At the time, our Minister of Innovation, Science and Economic Development, the Honourable Navdeep Bains, asserted that Canadians were, and these were his words, reclaiming their right to accurate and reliable information, on the basis of which they would be able to make sound decisions about their personal and our national futures. Then last August, with the 2016 census of population complete, Canada's chief statistician, Wayne Smith, pronounced it the best census ever, with an overall response rate of 98.4%. This is a nation driven to evidence-based decision-making. A few weeks ago, at the start of May, Statistics Canada released a second series of data derived from the census, this time bearing on the age and sex of the Canadian population. And the report made big news. Many of you will have noted that. And the reason for this was what the 2016 census had revealed, namely that Canada has in the last few years undergone a very significant generational shift. Here's a quote from the StatsCan report. As a result of the rapid increase in the number of people 65 years of age and older since 2011, 2016 marked the first time that the census enumerated more seniors at 5.9 million than children 14 years of age and younger at 5.8 million. What does this mean? One thing it tells us is that the Canadian population is aging, not that we didn't already know that in a crude sense, of course. But the census story is all about changing proportions. For the first time since Confederation in 1867, the seniors' share of the population now exceeds the children's share. And the group in between, the group into which I think all of you fall, 15 to 64-year-olds, is shrinking as a proportion of the total population. I'm an English professor, so I know I have a right to this kind of information, but to be frank, I never know quite what to do with it. The StatsCan report tells me that such knowledge, here's a quote from StatsCan again, will be especially helpful for adapting social programs for children, adults, and seniors to the new demographic reality. But I wonder about that. Undoubtedly, it will help us identify and understand the new demographic reality. But what it will mean to adapt to that reality is much more than a statistical question. Implicit in the phrase demographic reality is an assumption that certain consequences must inevitably follow this generational shift. For example, that funding for health and social programs will now move proportionately to favor the aging and the elderly, even as the working population that must pay for those programs is shrinking. That may be logical, and providing proper care to the elderly, no matter how numerous they are, should be a non-negotiable requirement in a civilized nation. But there are nevertheless vitally important questions we must still ask about the condition of and prospects for the younger generation in this scenario, your generation in short. Now, these are especially important questions to ask in 2017 as Canada marks 150 years as a nation. Anniversaries like this provoke retrospection. Of course, they also sometimes provide an opportunity for jingoism and mindless patriotic fervor. And I dare say we'll see quite a bit of that in Canada when July the 1st rolls around. But so far, this country has taken note of its special year in a characteristic, fairly muted fashion, recognizing, especially on university campuses, that while there is much to celebrate in our history, there is also much about which we should be thoughtful and critical. Our sesquicentennial is also an occasion to look into the future, imagining what Canada will become in the next 50 or 100 years. And it is in that context that I find the 2016 census results so thought-provoking. We are being told that a far-reaching and unprecedented generational shift is happening right now, just as we're running up the anniversary flag. And interestingly, it is a shift that sends us back to our last big national event, the centennial in 1967. And it is interesting because that year coincided with another very significant and related generational shift. The middle of the 60s is generally understood to be the end point of the baby boom, the population surge which began in 1946 after the end of the Second World War, And it is the aging members of that generation whose entry into the ranks of seniors over the last few years have given rise to the demographic changes that the 2016 census recently revealed. Now, I am a baby boomer, and it was my generation that seemed so incomprehensible to our parents that a special term had to be coined to describe the phenomenon. This was a phrase I hope some of you know, the generation gap. And one experienced the generation gap as significant and sometimes profound differences of opinion about things trivial and things grave, about music, politics, personal values, and a host of other topics. Families like my own became cultural battlegrounds. I remember my father, inexplicably, to me at least, being plunged into a red-faced fury when he discovered in my elder brother's clothing drawer a pair of blue jeans with an extravagant floral design, and a shirt with, of all things, this had him sputtering with anger, puffed sleeves. So I think you all know enough about 60s fashions to be able to picture this abomination. Now, my own differences with my parents were less sartorial than they were political in nature. But as I have reflected on those times, I've come to understand that those two categories of resistance on the part of my generation were not really separable. To a degree not seen since in the West, how, or indeed whether, one clothed one's body was contested terrain between the generations. It was a language through which other, sometimes deeply divergent views expressed themselves. Now, the generation gap was a term invented by sociologists, building on the theory of generations developed by Karl Mannheim in the 1920s. For Mannheim, a generation was not simply a cohort of people born and achieving maturity between specified years. It was such a cohort for sure, but it was also one upon which certain major historical events had registered an impact. A generation was, in other words, shaped by its particular historical experience. Mine was, for example, post-war and post-Hiroshima, but definitely not post-nuclear, as we lived in daily apprehension of a nuclear apocalypse. While I'm reminiscing, my wife remembers that as a child in school, she was trained to climb under her desk and cover her head in anticipation of an atomic blast. It would be indeed surprising if such practices had not left an indelible mark on the generation for which they were routine and normal. So while the 2016 Canadian population census seems to confirm that we are in the midst of a decisive generational shift, it is obviously far too early to speculate on the qualitative dimensions of whatever gap might open up between your generation and mine. Indeed, it is entirely possible, notwithstanding Mannheim's implication that some sort of generational consciousness must inevitably emerge, it's entirely possible that dislocation and discontinuity will not define the ways in which we relate to each other. This is to some extent within our control. There will certainly be economic and other consequences of the aging of the Canadian population. And today, as I speak to an auditorium full of graduates from the Faculty of Health Sciences, I'm acutely conscious of some of them, most obviously of that increasing strain on the healthcare system as seniors come to outnumber children and the active wealth-producing workforce shrinks. Looking into the future, as one does on occasions such as this, and as our nation will do on July the 1st, it is obvious that significant challenges lie ahead as the torch passes from one generation to the next. But I am profoundly hopeful about the future because of my faith in all of you. The well-known anthropologist Margaret Mead published in 1970 a very serious study of intergenerational relations. It was called Culture and Commitment, a study of the generation gap, in which she beautifully captured the service which every new generation performs for its society and for humanity at large. The young, she wrote, are free to act on their initiative and can lead their elders in the direction of the unknown. The young must ask the questions that we would never think to ask, and through creativity, curiosity, and innovativeness, find answers that their elders cannot imagine. I have worked in universities for more than 40 years and have always, indeed increasingly, been invigorated by the way in which students have sought to challenge received wisdom and to advance the human intellectual and social project. If there was ever a gap between us, and I suppose following Mannheim that there must always be at least some kind of generational discontinuities, if there was ever a gap between us, I have strained to listen for your voices on the other side of it, to learn from what you have had to say and from what you have done and wanted to do. Margaret Mead felt that while the young should be free to act on their initiative, they also needed somehow to re-establish trust with their elders, as she said, so that the elders will be permitted to work with them on the answers. According to that vision of generational shift, then, your future is a project on which we collaborate. My generation providing what knowledge and wisdom we can, but depending on you to surpass us in making this a brighter world. I haven't dwelt on the challenges you will face, except, of course, for the looming healthcare problem to which I alluded. And I haven't talked more broadly about the role of my generation in creating some of those obstacles you will face, because this is meant to be an upbeat occasion and those things are banned. But if you need to trust us in order to achieve the solutions you seek, we need to admit our failings and shortcomings and trust to your energy, creativity, and positive values. I became an educator 4 decades ago, not just for something to do, but for something I wanted to see created, a better, more just society. The well-being of people and the communities they comprise has been my preoccupation. And unlike many of my peers, I do not believe that my generation was unique in its idealism, altruism, or its social conscience. I know from working with many of you that those 3 things are as much, if not more, alive amongst you than they ever were amongst my peers. And that is in its own way a bit of a miracle, given the state of the world that we're in the process of handing over to you. Leave this room assured that we delight in your success, that we are in awe of your talent, and we are beyond excited to see where you will all take us. Good luck to you all.
Congratulations to the class of 2017. As a fellow McMaster alumna, I'm looking forward to seeing where you all go from here. I'm going to just build for a moment, since everybody seems to be talking about age, because 50 years ago today, or not today, this summer, I sat where you're sitting today. And I can tell you, I can't tell you who the chancellor was. I don't know who the president was. And I don't even know if we had an honorary degree recipient. But I remember the ritual. And I remember particularly the pride my parents had of my standing there and receiving my degree. And I hope that all of you get a chance to share that today. But the other thing is looking back on it, and it touches a bit about what President Dean said, is what I remember most and my greatest learning from my time at McMaster was the importance of curiosity. It was with curiosity I got through university, but it was curiosity that has allowed me to grow and learn throughout the years. And think of it, you're asking all the time is, why? Why does somebody think like this? Why does this happen? What causes this? And from that you learn, and you gravitate through society that way. And maintaining that curiosity is what really does allow personal growth. It's very easy to fall into your own comfortable bubble, but it's not good for society, and in the long run, it's not good for you. And when you take curiosity and you combine it with those who are lucky enough to have it, which is creativity and innovation, you see it reflected in the kind of people who got awards here today, and it is wonderful to see. And there are many examples of it in society, in the university, and it is something to strive for. But I come back, the basis is keep yourself curious all your life. And Dr. Verghese, congratulations on your accomplishments and showing us just what can be done when you put your mind to it. And Dr. Dean has given us, as usual, a fair amount to think about how we deal going forward. As Dr. Burns says, it's a very fast-moving society, and we have a lot to do. And I look at what happened, if you want to take in the last 50 years, knowing that the speed of change for you will be so much greater than anything any of us expected. We know we're turning out the best graduates, all right? And you people are really our pride and joy and our future. And so I want to wish you best of luck in everything. Now, I have a couple of housekeeping items to tell you about before we close. Flowers that have been delivered for graduates will be available at the coat check in the main lobby. I would ask that you remain standing at your seats until the academic procession and the graduates have left the hall. Finally, please join now in the singing of our national anthem. After the singing of the anthem, this convocation stands adjourned.